everybody, today I'm headed to Todd County, Kentucky, which is in southern Kentucky, to go to a mother-daughter banquet with my grandmother, which is very sweet that she invited me. Along the way, I'm going to show you some of the sights and maybe historic points as I go. I waited to video until I was a little bit north of Springfield because Springfield can be a little busy in traffic, and I didn't want people thinking I was crazy while I was driving down the road talking to you all. So I hope you enjoy this video. I will try to show you some of the coolest spots between here and there, and maybe even some of the square that's up close to where we're going to be, in the historic places up there. But basically you'll see things within Robertson County, Tennessee, as well as Todd County, Kentucky. For anybody who's interested in seeing some of these spots or views these videos and is from around this area and is curious about the history of the area, these should be some interesting spots to you. I will not, one of the most interesting spots to most people would be Adams, Tennessee, which is where the Bell Witch is from. I personally am not going to play with that. So when I drive by, I will videotape the cemetery, but I'm not going to stop and show you the old schoolhouse. I may video it as I go past. I do have family that attended the old school back in the 30s and 40s, which was kind of neat. My great aunt talks about going to that school, which I think is very interesting, but because of some of the things that I've heard about this town, as well as just some of the vibes that come out of it, I'm not going to stop there. I don't want to invite that into my home, and I don't want to mess with it, so I'm not going to. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the video and some of the interesting spots along the way. Okay, so I'm pulling into Adams, Tennessee now. This is the main road, and as you can tell, because I'm slowing down, usually in the back roads you can go 55. But because we're reaching a town, of course, they have it kind of set up as a speed trap, like everywhere else. And so we're down to 30 miles an hour. And the cemetery, the Bell Witch Cemetery, is coming up here on the right. So here we go. You can see the fence on the right there. I tried to roll down my window here so that you all can see the fence. And there's the cemetery. You can see the obelisk up in there. And the sign for the city of, for that. What you can see coming up here on the right, just beyond this metal building, you're going to see an old building here, and that is the old schoolhouse. It is now I think it's still an antique store, but it also is, it's a community complex, as well as they have a lovely little cafe in there that you can eat at. But this is where the old schoolhouse is. As you can see, some of the houses from the original still stand, some of them in better repair than others, some new churches, as well as some little local favorites around here. You can get some really good food around this part of town, as well as they are now uptown because they now have a Dollar General. As I'm moving towards the next point of interest in Adams, I did want to mention the Thresherman Show. It is a really popular event for the locals, so if you're ever in the area, that's something and it's that time of year, that would be something you would definitely want to check out. We are about to go over the railroad tracks here. The old railroad tracks, I can't get down to it, are still there by the water. They have a new bridge, but the old railroad tracks are still by the water. It's kind of interesting. I don't know if you could see that or not. I doubt it. I doubt it was up high enough. If you like outdoor activities, however, here just north of Adams, and there are cars in every one of these spots, it just makes me look like an idiot. But you can see here, there is the Red River Rentals. And the Red River Rentals is a canoe company. And you can canoe from here past a cave, which is perfect because your bottles of water are going to get hot when you're canoeing. And when you get to the cave, you can stick your bottles of water down in the water that's coming out of that cave, and they will be cold again. It is a great place to rent your canoe and to travel. It is definitely, I would suggest it. I've done it a couple times. It's definitely worth the time. Okay, we're about to come down to the next interesting spot, which is the granary. It is on either side of the road here, and the speed limit does reduce, so I've got to slow down a little bit. This has always been really unique to me because it's on either side of the road. It's not off on one side where you can do that. The other part that I've always found interesting is this little curved tunnel, if you can see it back in there. I guess curved tunnels were all the rage back in the day. What else is interesting about this particular granary are these old buildings that you can see here that are, some are still inhabited. Within my lifetime, I've seen some of like the old buildings back in there definitely be inhabited. They have updated, like here, some of the new buildings. However, it is just a really interesting place. I'm not sure if they are transients who just follow and migrants who follow where the crops are, or if they live there year-round. There are constantly furniture and activity out of there year-round. I'm just not sure about the other. Okay, the next thing I'm going to point out is this vintage house that's over here, probably built back in the 1800s. I don't really know any of the history of it. I don't know if you saw right there next to the house though, but wheat is about to come in. There was a big discussion at a family get-together just the other day that the wheat was at 18%, and I believe it has to be between 15 and 16% for them to harvest, so it'll be harvested soon. Okay everybody, we are about to pull into Guthrie, Kentucky, a very small town just over the Tennessee border. Some interesting things here are, let's see if I can catch this house so that you can see it. It's kind of obstructed now there. This building is actually a house. It was a bar. From what I hear, I have a family member who is friends with a person who had lived there, and from what I hear, it has the most amazing bar kitchen area because they took the old bar and turned it into a kitchen counter. It's kind of interesting and new. You can see a little bit of Guthrie, and as long as I don't run into a police officer while I'm trying to hold the phone, or not the phone, while I'm trying to hold the camera, I have ordered a camera for my dashboard so that it'll just be pushing a button from here on out, which is a lot better. But as long as I don't run into one of them, I'll let you see the road and what Guthrie, Kentucky kind of looks like. I'm going to stop here in town because I want to show you a couple of the old buildings. Okay, so the reason I stopped here with the awful semi with no muffler logo on was to show you this old building and kind of what they're doing. They've actually taken all the insides out of this building. You can see what used to be Main Street here and kind of the neat buildings that are still around and the detail that's still around here. But what I wanted to show you were these buildings. They're just shells anymore. The painting is so cool, and I'm really glad they didn't tear that down. I was really concerned. I took some pictures when they first started working on this so that it would always be kind of open. I'm going to walk you over here so that you can see what I'm talking about. You can see how it's completely open inside, and there's basically nothing. You can see where the old floor joists are and the old windows. And things like that, and you can see some of the really pretty detail work on all of it, and how they've had to support it as well. But I love the painting on it. I just really think that's pretty. So that's all I stopped to show you. Okay, one of the other things I want to show you is what is called the castle. I'm going to have to shoot it through here. It's a private residence. It's kind of neat. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see it. Yeah. It is a private residence here in Guthrie, Kentucky. It's one of the most unique, supposedly haunted, I don't know. It just is a really unique house. I'm not sure when it was built. If I can find out for you all, I will absolutely let you know. Up here on the left is going to be the next part that I'm not going to stop at because it's pretty overgrown and running down. But I want you all to see this old historic church that's up there. We have grain bins here. and an old granary. And then just on the other side, I'm going to slow down because there's nobody behind me. You can see this old church that is going to rack and ruin, unfortunately. It's too bad that the city of Guthrie is letting that happen. But it is really a beautiful church, or was, and it actually had stained glass in it up until this past, I'd say within the last 12 months, the stained glass disappeared. I'm not sure who stole it or who took it. Maybe they didn't steal it. Maybe they had a reason to take it. But I'm not sure who took it. I just know that it kind of disappeared. Okay, see you in a bit. One of the other crops I wanted to point out was the corn, which is now taller than I am. A couple weeks ago it was shorter than I am, so it's coming along nicely. We've had a fair amount of rain lately, which has really helped the crops. And then on the other side of the road, you can see that wheat that I was telling y'all about earlier that was going to be ready to harvest here very, very soon. Maybe that's a better angle for you all to see it. I think that it looks really good, and they should get a pretty good crop this year. So there you go. Here's a little bit more you can see out this window. Now that we're past the cornfield, we've got another wheat field over here. Okay, I've come across some wheat that's finally been harvested, so obviously it has hit the right mark, which is awesome, and you can see that that field goes a good ways back in there. Farmers will typically plant 2 crops on one field, so probably what will go in here will be soybeans. Ignore the little bit of forest there. There's probably a cemetery or some such inside of there. Typically when you see a patch of forest right on the edge of a field that looks like it's out of place, they're the old cemeteries in the area. But the farmers do try to get 2 crops off of the field to try to make ends meet and cover all the costs and expenses they have. Farming's not cheap, unfortunately. They're not as rich as everybody wants to think they are. So I expect it will be soybeans in here. In a later date, when I'm on my way up to my grandparents' area of Kentucky, I'll let you know what they planted. One other thing I wanted to mention as I'm doing this drive is not just to show you the nice rows of corn on either side, but to give you a word of warning that if you come up into the Kentucky area, such as Todd County or Southern Kentucky, there are, a lot of people would call them Amish, but they're not Amish, they're called Mennonites. They do ride horse and buggies. They have been known and do frequently take their tractors to town. Obviously that's okay, but cars are not. They can ride in a car if someone else drives them. But a lot of times you still see a horse and buggy, kind of like the Cradola on the side of the road here. Well, I thought that might be horse poop. I was wrong. They do, however, run down through here in their horse and buggy. So when you're riding these back roads, or when you're driving down through Kentucky on some of the side roads, you need to be careful. They might be walking alongside the road. They might be driving their horse and buggy around. You'll see them out a lot on Sunday because they go to church, and then around visiting. They're very friendly people. Of course, you need to ask about any photographs before you take them, so you won't catch me taking them without permission unless they're from a good distance away and you can't tell who the people are, out of respect for their culture and for how they feel about that. One of the easiest ways to determine what is a Mennonite farm is typically they will not have your fancy curtains in the window. They will have something very simple. They do have electricity and running water and all of those good things, but they do have a simpler way of life. But as you're driving through these back roads, just be mindful that at any point you might come up on a horse and buggy. And you might also just have some deer run across the road in front of you. Over here to the left is a sorting center for a charity, which is pretty much in the middle of nowhere. However, they were able to get the place fairly inexpensively, but it's a big building, as you can see. I'm going to show you this field because the combine is still out in it. Okay, we're pulling into the southern part of Elkton, Kentucky now. I was going to show you the high school. Todd County Central High School. There we go. And you can see it. It's a fairly large high school. Okay, so now I am in the Greenwood Cemetery, which is the Elkton Cemetery. There are about 2,000 people buried here currently. So it is the main cemetery in Elkton, Kentucky. My great-grandparents are buried here, as well as some other assorted family members. but I thought I would bring you through here. They have some really beautiful gravestones in here, and as you can tell, some of the gravestones are very, very old. I know that some people are kind of weirded out by cemeteries. I personally don't believe that the dead know anything, so I am perfectly content to wander around some of these old cemeteries, and I don't worry about it. I think they're amazing and they're beautiful and really interesting. I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want to go here and how to get down to where maybe I can park for just a second, sorry y'all, and show you some of these old gravestones so that you all can see the beauty in them and kind of explain some of them. All of them definitely have history. Give me just a second. As you can see, Elkton, I'm going to turn here and you'll be able to see as I go down the street here, Elkton has some really beautiful old homes, some of which are in lesser shape than some of the others, but some really old homes. If you look down that street, there is actually an old girls' home that they're actively renovating and restoring. It's actually down that street there. It's the brick house that you could see about 3 houses back. Here's another one of the old homes in the area, as well as this one. A lot of them have had additions, and they're all in various states of repair, but it's a very proud little community. I didn't feel comfortable in taking some video there at the mother-daughter banquet, so I didn't. Here's a Victorian style home. Here's another Victorian style home. You can see it up through the trees there. Another old home. So I'm headed back out of the way that we came in, out of Elkton. The high school is going to be down here on the right.